Hi, it's Veronica with the Crafty Ladder. We are working on the Apothecary Cabinet set for your home. And we have completed quite a few of the pieces inside of that home collection. So we are continuing on with the banners. And for the banners, I've decided that we're going to just keep it a neutral color on the actual pennants or rounds, and we're going to kind of mimic what we did with the individual letters for the home. So the shades will be brown, and the backgrounds will be a neutral beige color. I don't want to use white because I do not want to cover up any of this area here that has been scored. The letters will be black, so we're going to go in that direction. And I'm going to try and come in with, I did in the pictures use score lines for what would be the little bulb. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I'm going to keep this set for myself. So I did lose, I don't know how, but I lost the O for this particular piece. And I could go cut another one, but I'm working on it now. And so I'm going to use the O that belongs here. I'm going to use it here. And I am going to use a different O that I have, a little spare that I have here. So it'll be good. It'll be all right. So if you notice that, now you know why. I don't know what happened to that O. I know I had it at one point. Alright, so we are going to use the color from Apple Barrel, which is called Warm Buff. But what I am doing, or what I have done, is I have these little bottles that I picked up at the Dollar Tree, and they have in them glazes. So that's my way of getting this to a translucent stage, because if I were to use it straight from here, it would be too pigmented and it would cover up all of the score lines. So this, you can tell there is quite a difference there. And all I did to accomplish that was I added some satin glazing liquid to from the Golden brand. I like this brand, to the Warm Buff. And basically you're using just a little bit of paint to a lot of the glazing liquid. And actually I didn't do it. Guillermo did that for me. It's a little bit, since I wanted to get all of the colors done and I needed refills in my bottles, he just took care of that task for me. So thank you to him. And I'm going to come in here, I'm going to go ahead and shake this. And I made a large bottle. I have the other colors, but I only have a little bit of each one because I don't need to use too much of it. But for this Warm Buff, since I use it as a base for a lot of my shapes, a lot of my wood cutouts, I do have a larger bottle of that one. And I've got wipes cut up, ready to go in this little box. And here we go. And I forgot to mention that my idea here for the banners was that you'd be able to hang the banner from or at the front of the drawer of the Apothecary Cabinet. So these pieces are really small. Let me get a ruler out. They are about a little over an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter. And this one's even smaller than that. So this one is about 3/4 of an inch, more or less. And you'll be able to, if you get them in nice and tight, they will fit on one drawer. But if you want to give them a little bit of extra string, you'll be able to hang it across multiple drawers in the front of your cabinet. So you can, of course, spread them out however you'd like to do it. That was the idea behind there. When I designed these, I actually made these little holes too small, and I had to come back and redesign and get those holes a little bit bigger so that I could actually so you can actually get some twine through there. Or I'm going to use a little faux leather cord. And you can see, because that glaze is in there, this is giving me some nice coverage, but I can still see the wood grain. So it really just serves as a nice little neutral background. And when you have the paints pre-mixed like that, it's a huge time saver. And I'm thinking I'll be using this little set inside of my brown Apothecary Cabinet. So this will look really nice across the front of those brown drawers. Since these pieces are pretty small, I actually could have put them on the block. And it would have made even faster work of getting these painted up. You can see the score lines still coming through. And what I'm going to do is, instead of using a dark shade, I'm going to come in and use white to do a little highlighting. It's gonna replace what we would actually use as shading. And so I'm using Folk Art Titanium White. I always forget to shake this up. And it is really thick. So for this one, I think I am going to come in and use my angle brush. I don't have it here. Must be over here. Here it is. It's a small angle brush. It doesn't have a number on it, otherwise I'd give it to you. And so we do need a little bit of water. Some water on the plate. I'm going to dip the toe of the angle brush in there so I can get a good flow of paint going. And the reason is I'm bringing in, remember, we're going to go with a brown shade and black letters. So I want to bring in, the colors that we're using are the white, the brown, and the black. And right now all I'm doing is using the neutral color of wood. So I do want to come in and bring in that white without painting the piece white. So this will help me accomplish that. And this is the first time I paint this particular set, so if I feel after I'm done that it's not the direction I really want to take it, then I can always come back and change it. It's no big deal. But I am digging it so far, so I'm going to keep going. And this is just a way to keep those colors, to be consistent with the colors. I know you probably can't tell, but there is a little pool of water there. So it's helping to keep the flow going on the brush. And I'm using the same kind of technique that you would for shading with the darker color, except that I'm using white. And I could do this with a wipey, but I know what'll happen is that with those corners I'm going to snag the wipe and it'll start tearing it, and we don't want to mess with that. As I looked at it, it was again a little too pale. So one of the things that I was thinking about doing was just adding two pieces of just a round circle here and a round circle here, so I could tie a little loop at the end of each, tie a little loop at the ends of the cord, each side of the cord, and hang the little loops on those rounds. And it should work great. Okay. I don't know, for some reason this one, it just doesn't want to. It's really thirsty. It's eating up that white paint, or drinking up that white paint. So I keep looking at it and it looks pale. Hopefully that third time will do the charm. Alright, now the rounds. Give it a little bit more water. It's drying up here on the plate. Just going back in, working that in back and forth. Good. So this is our second to the last set inside of the home collection. The final piece is the mailbox. I'm excited about the mailbox. Alright, we've got those done. I may need to come in and do another little coat on a couple of these, but we'll worry about that once we get the other pieces done. So all of the shades will be brown. So let me go ahead and get my little block. I've got double-sided tape on here. Take my tape runner with double-sided tape, get some on there. It lasts, you can use it over and over. And I'm going to go ahead and get the little pieces on there. These are the shades. They are going to be brown. And when you get them side by side like that, you don't have to worry about getting paint on the edges. These pieces are really little. And we are using Apple Barrel Brown Oxide. Just need a little bit, obviously, because these are so small. And I want to dab a lot of that off because I still want some of the grain to come through. I don't want it to be a complete chocolate brown. And I will come in with a little bit more color to kind of get the edges, do a little bit of shading. My nails doing the work here of a paintbrush. So I hope you can see that. There's a little bit of contrast, I hope, for you. And I'm managing to shade the top of the shade and the bottom of the shade by going in through where they connect. Okay, those are good to go. See how quick that is? And now the letters will be black. And we're going to do the same thing. And for the black, we are using Apple Barrel Black. And I am going to work on getting a paint list for you. And I'll get that up probably on Facebook in the guide section. So dramatic, right? And I probably don't need another coat, but I'm gonna hit it anyway. So dramatic and pretty. Okie dokes. I'm gonna let that dry for a moment. And I'm going to do a little cleanup with my fingernails here. Hopefully I'll get most of that black off before it starts to stain my fingernail. Okay, I am going to use a paint marker to color in the little bulb. So let me get that. And this is an Artistro paint marker, and you gotta shake it up. There you go with that Taylor Swift song again. And you're supposed to shake it until you hear the little bead or whatever's inside, kind of like a spray paint can, activating the paint in there. And I'm trying to get that cap off. It's really on there. I'm just going to use this as my, you need to prime the marker, so you're just pressing up and down, trying to get the paint to flow, and it's starting. It's a fine tip. I don't know if this is, yeah, it's the extra fine point. Try not to press too hard because you don't want to blunt that tip. You still want to have that chisel point. That's one of the reasons that with paint markers I just turn to the paintbrush, because I want to. Start working with it right away. And when it comes to the paint pens, you gotta be priming. Since I don't use them that often, I guess if I used them all the time for every single project, they'd be ready and flowing and just waiting for me. But since I don't use them that often, I have to go through this process, and I do it to myself, I guess, right? So, alright, I am coming in and it's ready, it's flowing, great. And I could go with yellow here for the bulb, but we're going to go with a natural white light. Again, our colors, making that connection with our colors. Back to the brown, the black, the white. And it looks pretty good. I'm at the point, have been for several years, where I need readers to see these small things up close. So I'm hoping I'm hitting the target here. And it's really nice to have these extra fine point markers. So you can get into these tiny little places. And this one's even smaller still. But that just means it's quick work. Goldie. I'm sure you hear her. She's drinking her water. She's probably going to ask to go out in just a moment. It's kind of a routine. She's just standing there looking at me. What's up, Goldie girl? You want to go outside? Give me a moment. I'm going to let her out. I'll be right back. Okay, I just let her out. Yeah, that's her routine. So, we are ready for gluing up. And I'm going to use a little bit of, since these pieces are so small, rather than dabbing the glue on my finger, which is what I usually do, and I'm using Tide Bond Quick and Thick, I'm going to dab the piece on the parchment paper instead and then glue it onto the piece. So we'll start with the little shades. And you'll see there's a good amount there on the back. You may even pull out the tweezers here in just a moment. Trying to make sure it's nice and straight. And I'm going to give it a go with some tweezers. I'm just looking for a pair. Alright, I think I'm going to go with these. And these come in a set from Harbor Freight. And the reason I pulled out the tweezers is I want to make sure I get good coverage along all of the shade. I think that's pretty good. So I typically just dab the glue on my finger and get it on there. But since these are really small, sometimes it's easier just to go ahead and use the tweezers. Did have some of that glue come out, some seepage. So I'm going to clean that up. It does dry clear, which is great, but if there's extra, just might as well get it off. And because that glue gives you a little bit of time to maneuver and get things into place, that works out really well. But that also means that if you knock it around or start shifting, it tends to slide on you. Alright, last little shade, or the large shades anyway. And to avoid that, you can always dab off some of the excess before you try and come and place it. Still managed to get too much on that one. What also helps is that I've got that white border around the edge, that highlight that I added around the edge, so you really can't tell that there's glue there. All right, now for these teeny tiny pieces. I don't know if you can tell, but it's starting to dry up. The glue's starting to dry up. I've got the fan going, it's hot, so I've got the fan going. Obviously, you can probably see the plate moving. That looks pretty good. And so it's starting to dry up the paint. I'm sorry, the glue. Wait your turn. Wanted to ride the ride. I know for some people these little steps can be tedious, but all these little details, they just make a world of difference when it comes to whether you're keeping this as a collection for yourself, as a little treasure, whether you're gifting it, which would be so amazing. It's personalizing these items. And if you're maker and selling them, you don't have to create all of these. You can create a sample and show the sample, see if you have any customers that are interested, and price accordingly for the work that you're gonna, for the time that it's gonna take you to do these little steps. I enjoy this process. I think it's wonderful. I have fun doing it. And of course I like the end result. I like all the little details. So when you look at the piece, you see how everything works together, and you notice the attention to detail. And so we have our little shades there, and they look fantastic. You even see that little white peeping through at the bottom. Maybe not these so much, because the shadow from the shade does seem to block that little white bulb that's on the bottom. I can see it from my vantage point. You can see it there when I lift it that way. But these, you can definitely see the white bulb peeping out from the bottom. Alright, so I am going to need a little bit more glue, because that has dried up, because I need to come in and get the glue on the letters and then glue that up. So what I'm doing, and then of course what I'm doing is I'm putting it on the paper, but I am spreading it out because I don't want just a big blob. I want to be able to come in with the letters. Get the glue on there. Get the glue on there and just kind of come over to the side and dab some of it off. Get it into position. And I was looking at it because I did get a little bit on the edge, a little bit of glue on the edge. because it's black, you know, everything shows up on it. I'm going to go ahead and get these off of the block. And I mentioned to you earlier that I lost the O that goes here. So I'm using a little bit of a substitute. I just did not want to go and fire up the laser just to cut out this one little O. So we found a workaround. I can always, if I remember, go back and once I do, I'm working on a different project and cutting out anything, I can just cut that out, pop that off, and it's just black, so it's no biggie. These are big enough that you can use your fingers for placement. It's these letters that have that gap that tend to pick up the glue where the gap is, and then you want to come in and clean it off. Go. Now for these little teeny tiny ones, I need to clean the tweezers. So once you get glue on there, then it just transfers onto the next piece. Like a little black dress. You can see any piece of lint, or a black shirt. You can see any little stain, any little piece of lint. Same with these little black letters. I swear I get so much use out of these skewers. And they're just wood skewers that you use for like your candy apples and stuff like that from the grocery store. I think I got this pack at Target, but glue is starting to dry up on me. It starts to get a little film on the top, but underneath you have wet, the moisture's there, so you can still use that glue. And we're almost done, so don't want to let it go to waste. because I did that. I got a big blob of glue there on the side. Now I've got to clean up. A lot of slipping and sliding going on with this one. I think I might want to touch up that black. And now the final piece. The E. Just cleaning up the glue that got into that little crevice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get the glue back out because it's not wet enough. So it's not sticking. Go. And I'm going to clean up the skewer, clean up my fingers. Since I have glue on them, they're wanting to stick to everything now. But huge difference from using something like a super glue. The cleanup is really good, really easy with this glue. You don't have to worry about how you're going to get the super glue off your fingers. And what I'm doing is as I mentioned, anywhere there's a gap in the letters, the glue seems to want to find its home in there. So I'm just working on getting that out of there. Same with the M. O is good, the H is good, and they all look really nice. So I'm just going to get a little bit of that black paint. There's still a little moisture there. And I'm going to hit this M again. And maybe the E too, the top part. What'll happen is that with that little seepage of glue, it will dry clear but might have a little sheen. So by hitting it with the paint again, it'll take care of that. Alrighty, I think we are good to go with this little set. The only thing that we need to do is add our twine or leather. I'm using a leather cord, which is this one here, and we'll string this up. So we don't need much, but I think we will go ahead and do maybe a foot. I think I'm going to go ahead and use this is overkill, but this is the first time that I string these up. So I'm going to go ahead and go with 1.5 feet. And the reason is I just want to make sure that I have enough to make those little loops that I talked about. So I'm going to run the cord through. Looks so pretty. You can run it through the back. Let's see what that looks like if I run it through the back. I think I like that better. Yeah. So we want to get this one all the way to the end, of course. It's the E. And my goal is to get a little loop here at the edge. So that's why I wanted to make sure I had enough excess. I don't want to struggle with getting that loop in there. So I'm going to move this down a little bit. And I don't know the size of the little circle I'm going to be hanging the loop from. You can always just stake it down with a push pin, or you can use probably glue to tack it down. Now, of course, if you want, you can totally glue the pennant, the banner, to the front of a drawer, but then you won't be able to reuse it. So I'm trying to keep a loop, an open loop, so that I can use this as a hanger. So I'm not going to tighten it up too much. So I've got a loop there, and I'm not going to tighten it up too much. Alright, so we got our E in there. Now we are going to work on the M. Dokes. O. Kind of went under with that one. So an under, over, under. I like it, but it's not really sitting flat. So I'm just going to go ahead and rework the M. I do like the look both ways, so that's why I thought I'd give it a little bit of a try there. But no, it's not going to sit flat, so. So now we're kind of like stitching. So now the O. Falling in love with it. So yeah, 1.5 feet was overkill. Oh, I forgot I was going the wrong way again. But now I know, and now you know, that you should be able to get by with maybe even 9 inches or so. Or just go with the foot. Play it safe. So now we're going to get that little loop on this side. Get a knot to hold that loop in place. And to keep that loop with its shape. And now we'll be able to hang that on the front of a drawer. Now you would of course use a longer cord if you're going to run this across the front of two drawers. Doesn't that look phenomenal? I just love it. I love it. I love it. So I'm going to go ahead and snip off the excess there. You will be able to hang it off. If you know, I'm thinking right now with 2 little tacks right here on the side, you can do that. I was thinking of hanging it from 2 little rounds, which that's why I included the little loops. But you could just as easily tack it. That'd be great. And I mean, I just think it looks great. It looks great up against that blue. My aim was to use this set with a brown Apothecary Cabinet, so we'll see how it looks on that. But right now against this blue, it looks really pretty. Doesn't that look great? All right. Okay, so for this bottom one, we're going to go ahead and use about 1 foot of cord. Do the same little number. Now actually I'm just going to go ahead and use probably tacks. So I'm not going to worry too much about the little loop there, but I am going to leave a loop just in case we decide to go that route. And time to string this up. Go the same route. Let's feed it through the back and go that way instead. This one has only 1 hole, so we'll see how it decides to sit. You know, I kind of like this one, the idea to run it across the front of maybe 2 drawers. So I may play with this one once it's hanging. just trying to get a feel for it. So I think I want to leave some space in between, but I'm not positive on this one. I don't know if I want it to work side by side, and the cord is making it a little bit tricky since the cord is really stiff. So maybe twine would give me a little bit more flexibility with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave it as is, and then when I style it, we'll see whether or not I want to go ahead and just do the same kind of idea as this one with little loops, or if I want to use the twine instead and run it across a couple of drawers, the front of a couple of drawers. Because I think with the twine, since it's thinner and it's more flexible, these will lay flat a little bit better. So I'm going to leave this one as is. You get the idea for sure of what it's going to look like. Let me spread them out. I'll just take them off the cord since they're not sitting flat. And we'll work with that one once we're going to do the placement on the Apothecary Cabinet. So stay tuned for that part. See which direction I take it. Alright, so now you know you can use cord, you can use twine, and it's going to look fantastic whatever you decide to use. So we have one piece left. That's the mailbox. I'm excited about that little mailbox. Thanks for joining me on this one for the banner. I think it looks great. They look great. Of course, they go with the whole theme color story, which is white, black, and brown for the base colors. And we are going to wrap this one up. I am Veronica with the Crafty Ladder. If you have any questions, once you get your designs painted up, and I want you to share them with me, please. You can share them over on Facebook, The Crafty Ladder, or you can send me an email to thecraftyladder@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next session where we covered the mailbox.